friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. I'm here with a video for Scrappy Tails Crafts, and it is their new March release. I'm going to use a stamp set called Spring Birds from the new release. When I opened up this stamp set, I had so many ideas in my head for cards that I wanted to make with it. I just wasn't sure what I was going to do with it when I sat down. I have my masking paper out because I thought I would make a scene, but then I realized that for a regular A2 size card, the bird bath itself is very large. So is the branch and the individual birds. So, I tried looking at this spotlight stencil that I have, but nothing quite fit. So I decided I'm just going to go ahead and start stamping images. So I'm going to stamp out all of these images, color them in, and see what I end up with. So I'm going to start with the bird bath here. And it fits beautifully on an A2 size card. You can see that here. So I was really happy with the way this came out, actually. That's going to make a pretty card all by itself. I'm going to make a single layer card out of that, and it will be pretty. So then I'm going to go ahead, and I've gotten in the habit of being more careful about cleaning off my stamps between stamping, and you'll notice I'm using a new black ink. This black ink is called Hive ink from maker Forte, and this is their remarkable Eclipse black ink, and it is pretty amazing. It stamps beautifully, and it's got a nice firm foam pad, so I actually quite like this ink. So for my second panel, I put all the birds down. There are 5 bird images, and then there are these 3 little flower images. And notice that before I use them, since this is the first time I use them, I do use my Pentel high polymer eraser just to swipe over each of them to remove the manufacturing residue, and then they stamp perfectly the first time. So I'm going to color all of those in, and then I will die cut them. And I did have a couple spots on the faces. The darker spots on the faces, I had a couple spots that I had to redo because I didn't push hard enough on my Misty in those 2 spots. I realized as I was putting the ink on that there was already ink on the stamp. I just didn't transfer it. So I'll do a couple of I'll also ink up or stamp a couple of the branch images, and then I'll move on to color. So I'm not going to show you all the coloring because that's a lot of coloring, but and I don't want to make this about a coloring video, but you can see that for this bird bath, I decided to do it in the warm grays. I used W5, W3, W1, and W0 to do the bird bath, and I used a couple of pretty blues. I used B12, B14, BG11 to do the water, and then I just colored in the birds. And when I got to the end, I actually used E33 and E34 to make a little bit of ground, and then I pulled out YG67, 63, and 61 to make some little grass and weeds there, just to ground the image and create a little scene. And I decided, as I'm doing this, I'm realizing I definitely want to stamp a couple of those little flowers in here because I'd like just a little bit more bright color. These are spring birds, so I would like to have a spring color in here. And I have no idea what kind of birds they are, so I just colored them in whatever mood I was in. That's what color those birds came out. So I stamped a whole bunch of these. At first I thought I would just do one on each side, but then I decided I will stamp a whole bunch and I will draw a vine between them. So I pulled out a couple of pinks, RV19 and RV14. I put the darkest color in the center of each of the flowers, and then the lighter color filled in the rest of the flower. I didn't do anything fancy. There was no fancy coloring here. And then I pulled out G46 and used that to draw like a vine connecting the flowers, and I used the side of the marker to create some little leaves. I just sort of squished it like a little oval in different places along the vine. And, you know, like, I don't consider myself a great drawer, but with a marker, you can squish your marker in this way or that way, and it'll look like a leaf. And, you know, certainly a vine is easy enough to draw. And I like the way it came out, and I think the pink definitely added to it. Now, it needs a sentiment, so I'm pulling out the sentiment from the stamp set that says spread your wings. The other sentiments say, one says a little birdie told me ... and then the other one says it's your birthday. Now, these are good size fonts on, you know, these sentiments. They're pretty, but they are really generously sized sentiments. So just that was something that I had to keep in mind as I was creating the cards. I needed room for those sentiments. So I stamped that in the same black ink. And again, since it's the first time using it, I clean it off with, you know, I condition the stamp with my eraser, pardon my head. And when I finished it, I really love, like, that is just enough for a card. Somebody getting that will be very happy with it. But of course it needs splatter and it needs some sparkly gems. So my final touch on this card for the moment is I'm pulling out my jet black ink spray, which I almost never use as an ink spray. I use it for splatter just like that. Then I pulled out my white and did the same thing. Again, almost never use it as a spray, but it works beautifully as a splatter. And I am going to do something that is hard for me. I'm going to be patient and let this dry. So I put it on a little cutting board and put it off to the side, cleaned up my table, and I'm going to move on to the next card. So what I decided to do with the next card was to color in. You can see I really stamped everything from this stamp set. I decided I would color in this little branch, and I masked off the top branch that went up that had more leaves on it. You can, if you look at the two images, you can see one of those sets of leaves and branches is missing, and I just wanted the bottom part of this. So I finished coloring that in, and I colored all the other images that I had stamped and die cut them out with my brother's Scan and Cut. Now Scrappy Tails Craft does have coordinating dies for every one of their stamp sets. I use my brother's Scan and Cut instead of buying the coordinating dies. I buy dies like this instead. This is from Pink Fresh Studios, and I have had it in my stash for a while, but it makes really pretty circular mats, I should say. That's what I'm trying to say. So when I pull this out, you can see. So I have the nice piece with the circle in it. I'm going to use that. I didn't center that perfectly, but it's going to work out just fine. And then I'm left with this. Now, I could have just used the circle piece and left off the fancy bits, but I really like the fancy bits. So, and I could have just used the row of dots or just the row of oval, you know, the sideway ovals, but I like the way that came out. I think it's kind of pretty. So what I want to do here is I'm going to get two different cards out of that die cut. So I'm going to use the piece that I die cut the circle out of for the first card. So I wanted to put some color behind where that circle is. So I pulled out Scattered Straw, and I'm going to put that right in the middle. And then I pulled out Fossilized Amber, which I'll put around there just to give it a darker rim and just give it a little bit more interest and make it a little brighter. I just want it to be like a bright sun. I went back to the Scattered Straw just to smooth out the blend between the two. And then I can take that top panel that I cut the circle out of and just glue it down. You could pop it up on foam if you wanted to, but I'm just going to glue it to the card. I'm going to pop my other pieces up on foam because you can see I have a lot of pieces to work with there. I literally did all the birds, and I realized that since I didn't center it, one side needs to go all the way to the edge there with the color. And it was one of the panels was a little longer than the other, so I'm just going to trim that down. And then I have some nice yellow behind where I'm going to pop up some birds and that branch. Now, I fussy cut out that branch because it was easier to fussy cut. And I want to add a little color. Here's an easy way to add color. Maybe you did this when you first started stamping like me, and you forget all about these blender brushes. This one's from Dove. This is a Dove blending brush, and it comes with, they actually have a refill solution. You just squish a little bit of your ink into the lid of your ink pad and then just pick it up with this blender brush and transfer it to your image. And I just want to get around all the leaves and the branches and add some blue sky there because I think it'll just be more interesting and it'll look better to have the blue in there rather than the white. And I'm not gonna lie, I was too lazy to cut out all of that. Like, you could cut it out and not bother with the blue, but this was just easier. And it's been a while since I used my blending brush, so I'm not sure if the original blending brushes are still available. This was the one I could find, and I actually really like this. I like that it comes with a refill. I don't have to buy a new Dove brush. I can buy the refill material. And I just wipe it off on my rag to get all the color off of that. I'm going to put some foam on the back of this and pop that along the bottom of that sunny circle. So I'll get lots of dimension on the card. So one of the birds I colored like a blue jay, because I'm pretty sure this is a blue jay, although there's a woodpecker here in Florida that looks suspiciously like this bird, but it's not blue. So I think I could color it that way too. So I'm going to add a sentiment to this, and I pulled out the Rose Trellis stamp set, which is also from the new release. It's got this really pretty happy birthday sentiment that I wanted to put along the top. And again, these are generously sized. So to finish this card off, I'm adding 3 of these little crown jewel gems from my Maker Forte collection. And this is called Bittersweet. It's a bright orange, and I thought it was just a nice little touch to add a pop of color that really coordinates with the yellow and the blue. So I'm going to pull that first image back. It's dry, and I was going to trim it down and put a colored mat behind it, but I decided I like this just the way it is. I'm not going to trim it down and risk getting it crooked. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue this down to my card base. All my card bases are 4 1/4 by 11, and I score and fold them at 5 1/2. And I am going to add a couple of crown jewel gems in Vegas strip. These are blue. These are very pretty. I really like these, and you can see you get a lot in a package. So I'll just glue these down with my art glitter glue and my magic wand jewel picker. I love that thing. It's amazing. So I will give you a better look at all of 3 of these cards at the end. So now I'm going to pull that die cut back out, and I want this to be blue because I want to put some birds around it. And like, I have this idea in my head about how I would like this to look, and we'll see if it turns out, but I want to add some color on this. My ink pad's getting a little dry, so definitely, re-ink your ink pads. You can see that it's getting dry too because it's lighter in color in the center. So it's time to re-ink that ink pad. And I will just keep fussing with it. And if I don't get it exactly the way that I want, like this one spot that's a little darker, a bird will go there. So I put some birds down. You can see I have 5 different birds here. Actually, I have 4 now because I used one. And it's just not working for me. So I decide that what I'll do is pull out from the January release the Assorted Leaves die set. And I die cut 2 of these stems of leaves, and I happen to have a piece of green patterned paper on my desk that had white polka dots, so I die cut it from that, and I really like the way this looks with the the white polka dots on there. And I'm using some glue dots to stick those two pieces down. I love this particular stem because of the curve in it. So I'm just putting some foam on the back of two different birds and putting them down. And then I'll add a couple of, I have 3 of those little flower images that I colored and die cut. And I will pop those down just to add that pop of pink because they are spring birds and I do want spring colors. But I just think it makes it a little bit more interesting, gives the viewer something more to look at. And then I'm also going to add some of those Vegas strip gems again. So I'll put this down on my card base. And then I can put a sentiment right below it, and I will use that happy birthday again because you never can have enough birthday cards. So, you know, it never hurts to put happy birthday down. I'll add 3 of those little Vegas strip gems. I'm putting a couple extra glue dots underneath just to make sure that's adhered well enough. That jewel picker has the jewel picker on one end, and it's got a craft, I call it a pokey tool on the other end. It's quite a handy little magic wand, actually, and that is one of the best jewel pickers I've used. So this completes my cards. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and click that bell so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. And I will put all the links to these products below and the products that I used in the video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.